Hello, everyone. Dr. Glenna here, reminding you that therapy is a lifestyle. Thank you very much for joining me for the happy hour. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. It is tax day. So if you have not filed your taxes, I believe you have until midnight to get right with the IRS. And nobody likes the IRS being in our business. So thank you very much for joining me for the happy hour. The happy hour is my weekly wellness webinar. It's completely free. If you're watching live with me, thank you very much for joining me. If you are watching the replay on YouTube, thank you very much for watching the replay. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and share it with a friend because you never know who could benefit from what. The happy hour is a weekly free psychodynamic webinar where I'm going to be teaching on various different topics. The happy hour is not to be used in lieu of any psychiatric services, meaning if you are experiencing any mental health symptoms, please contact a licensed clinician, your primary care physician, or a psychiatrist. The happy hour is intended to be for informational purposes only. So this is where you can come and learn and enhance the skills that you already have. And all the things that I say kind of throughout my list are never exhaustive. Just because it's not on my list doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And if you were here with me last week, I didn't actually have to burn my entire office down. I was able to take care of the daddy long leg without setting everything ablaze. So thank you so much for your moral support. We are going to jump right on in. The happy hour. There we go. The comment in the chat is, oh, good. Yes, I didn't have to set everything ablaze. Just a small torch took care of it. All right. Welcome to the happy hour. Oh my goodness, I'm moving too fast. There we go. Today's topic, processing the experience of transition when going in the right direction is rough. It is so hard when you are doing exactly what you're supposed to do and it feels awful. You're saving money the way you're supposed to, and you're dreading every moment of it. Or, you're watching your child go off to college and it is tearing you up. When you are doing what you're supposed to do and you're in transition from one phase of your life to another phase, from one way of doing things to another way of doing things. But the experience of that transition is difficult, it is exhausting, it is scary. And oftentimes people try to hit us with those phrases where it's like, girl, you're gonna be all right. You strong, you making the right decision. And that is supposed to alleviate the stress that is associated with this, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So what we're going to talk about today is actually processing the experience. And I'm going to give you some practical tips and tools and things that you can use that will make it a little bit more bearable. Oh, my name is Dr. Glenna, and I am a coffeeaholic. I just need one cup a day, but I must have one cup a day. All right, defining transition. A transition is that in-between space between what was and what is becoming. It's a period of adjustment, of uncertainty, and reorganization. I always tell my clients, oh, you're in the hallway, right? Because it gives us a visual image of what it's like to be in the hallway. The hallway is, we know that the door that we came out of is one that we can't go back to. I can't go back to doing things the way that I used to do things, okay? I can't go back to spending money the way I used to, or eating the way that I used to, or engaging in certain relationships the way that I used to. But we're in the hallway because we don't yet have the skill set to do things in the new way that we want to do it. Okay. I can't spend money the way that I used to, but haven't really mastered the skill of really a healthy relationship with money, right? Like, I don't want to interact in dating relationships in the way that old me used to, but I don't yet have the skill set to interact in a way that is healthier or that involves more healthy conflict resolution skills. Okay. So a transition, it's like being in the hallway. You know that you're going in the right direction, but that little period where nothing really feels solid can really be scary. Some examples, a new job. You're transitioning into a new job. At your old job, you knew where everything was. You were the best of the best. But in your new job, you're kind of the new kid on the block. You don't even know where the bathroom is. You're like, how do you guys log in? What's the Wi-Fi? Okay. There's that period of discomfort where you're trying to get acclimated to your new environment. Ending a relationship is a period of transition. Well, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a professional relationship, again, there's that moment where you know that you're ending it for the right reasons, but it's still difficult. There is still grief. There's still fear involved. Did I make the right decision? Did this make me look bad? Am I being painted in a light that's not really accurate to who I am? Ending a relationship is a transitional season for you. Starting a healthy relationship is another transition. If you've been accustomed to doing things in a way that was toxic or, where there was a lot of backbiting and revenge getting, and all of a sudden you're moving into a healthy relationship, there is a transitional period where you are trying to actually use the skills that you've read about and that you've talked about with your therapist and that you talked about in your community. There's a period where you are trying to apply the skills that you've talked about conceptually in this healthy relationship. And there will be a period where even if you know what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to say, sometimes it can be difficult to actually do it and actually master it. Stepping into a new identity. This could mean a new role. It could be becoming a mother, becoming a father, becoming a grandparent. You've never embodied this identity before. And again, we've heard about it conceptually, but we're not always exactly sure what it means, what it entails. Am I doing it right? Am I grandmothering right? Am I parenting an adult child correctly? Stepping into a new identity is absolutely a period of transition. Changing your relationship with money, okay? Where you used to just spend a check and get it right back. That was your mentality. Savings, schmavings, right? Long-term plans. I'll worry about that tomorrow. This is on sale today. Chris Brown and Usher has all of us in a frenzy. And those of us that are trying to change our relationship with money are going through it. Changing your relationship with money is difficult because there are times where you know you're doing the right thing. When you watch yourself transfer from your checking to your savings instead of spending, you know you're doing the right thing. But the experience of the transition is what can be difficult and what can be uncomfortable, what can make you question, is this really worth it or do I really have to do all of this? A new diet or a new exercise routine. That's another time. It's a type of transition where you're trying to remind yourself, like, hey, we don't eat, cake after every single meal, even though it tastes good and you had a long day and you deserve something sweet or something salty. But trying to help yourself understand there's a reason why I'm making these changes. It doesn't always eradicate the experience of having to choose, carrots and hummus when you really want potato chips and, ranch dip. Healing old patterns. Before you recognize that the old patterns needed to be healed, they were a part of your personality. They were a part of how you responded to anger, how you responded to perceived disrespect, how you responded to sadness. You believe that this was a part of your personality. You believe that this is just how you are. But once you become aware, like, oh, that is maladaptive. I picked up that trait because of this experience that I had. And oh my goodness, that trait is not going to serve me in the next phase of my life. I need to change up. I need to do better. I need to operate differently. Healing the old patterns will have you in the thick of it because you don't exactly know what to do and it's so uncomfortable. And the experience of trying to heal, it can be really exhausting. I tell my clients all the time, you are not supposed to be healing and thinking about this stuff 24 hours a day. You're supposed to come to therapy, you process it a little bit, release, and go do something unrelated. Because healing old patterns, it can be really, really heavy. And learning conflict management or conflict resolution. Oftentimes people that kind of fight dirty or they shut down, when there's an argument, or they think if I get louder and bigger, then I can make you be quiet. If they start to nitpick and pick apart things, it's because they don't really have the best conflict management skills. And so instead of working towards resolving the conflict, my goal is to attack the other person to make them stop whatever they're doing. Stop arguing with me. Stop coming for me. I'll come for you harder. But when we learn conflict management and conflict resolution, then we have to kind of unlearn those other ways of doing things. And again, the transition, the experience of, oh my goodness, I have to address the patterns that I have been operating by in real time. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm scared. I'm not even aware of these things that I'm feeling, but they're bubbling up. And all of my defense mechanisms are coming up. But instead of me reacting that way, I have to sit with those feelings and use healthier conflict management, conflict resolution skills. These are just examples. Again, my lists are never exhaustive, but these are just some examples of the types of transitions that we go through where even if we're doing the right thing, the experience of doing the right thing is really difficult. Why do transitions feel so hard? Loss and growth exist together. Every positive change involves loss of familiarity, loss of identity, loss of control. Okay. Using the conflict resolution example, if historically you did not use healthy conflict resolution skills and you could either shut down and be quiet and make the conversation stop, or you could get bigger or louder or rationalize things in a different way and you could dominate the other person and make them stop, you might feel a loss of control. You might feel a loss of familiarity when you have to operate by a different standard. If you quit one job because it wasn't paying you what you needed to be paid and you went into a new role where you have more responsibilities, more parking, more benefits, but also you have lost the familiarity of knowing everybody there and everyone knowing your personality, so you don't have to overdo it in terms of trying to let people know that you're safe. There's a loss of familiarity. All growth comes with that. Loss and growth exist together. And oftentimes we think that growth does not include the experience of loss. We think, oh, it's just always going to be greater and greater. We think this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. And it just doesn't always feel like that. The two can coexist. The brain prefers predictability. The nervous system reads uncertainty as risk, and even desired change can trigger stress responses. Even if I'm saying, I'm going to save money. And even if you're watching your savings account grow and you're watching your credit card balance go down and you're watching your credit score improve, even if all of these things are happening, there's still unpredictability because you can't exactly see what's on the other side. Is it all going to work? Is it going to be okay? Because when I spent immediately, I saw immediate results. If I said, yes, I'm going to dinner and it was $150, well, I saw immediate pleasure, immediate gratification. But what if I'm doing all of this and it's all for naught? Okay. What if I'm entering to what I consider to be a healthy relationship, but I don't know this person? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I acquiesce. I don't know if that's going to get me the results that I'm looking for. The nervous system reads uncertainty as risk. And risk is dangerous. We are unsure. We don't know. Maybe this will happen. Maybe this won't happen. Even the desired response, it can trigger a stress response. And if we are not self-aware, if we're not aware of how we're feeling, then that stress response will get in the driver's seat and it'll make us start operating from a different place. Excuse me. Emotional lag. Your life may change faster than your emotions can process. Your circumstances may be updated, but your nervous system is still catching up. Like, wait, what? I got approved for the job and I got approved for the house and I got approved for the car all in one week. Whoa. It's great. It's change, but the experience of it, even if it's positive, it can be overwhelming. If your nervous system is reading change as risky, then it doesn't have time to catch up with all the different things that are happening. So your life is changing. Again, even if it's positive. Your kid all of a sudden gets accepted to a school and 2 weeks later they're on a plane to New York. It's like, whoa, this is great. This is the school that they want to go to. This is an amazing opportunity. But whoa, my emotions are so big. I haven't had time to really process. I haven't had time to experience the fear and the concern and the gravity of my child, my little baby is on a plane and I can't just drive to them immediately. I can't just get to them. And I think this is one of the biggest ones, the myth of it should feel good. If it's right, it should feel easy. And the reality is, growth often feels like discomfort, not clarity. We think if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm going about it the right way, if I'm supporting a loved one with change, if I'm, doing everything that I said I wanted to do, if just knocking stuff off of that vision board, that it will always feel good. we always see before and after pictures. Like when people post like their weight loss journey, they'll post, oh, I started in January of 2024 and 2 years later, look where I'm at. I'm in amazing shape and, I'm so much happier. And we think it's supposed to be easy. We think we're just supposed to go from glory to glory to glory. When the reality is transition, it will feel like discomfort. There will be a time where you have not mastered it, where you're not exactly sure what you're doing. And that is normal. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That is normal. What's underlying that discomfort? Well, we have an attachment to what is familiar. Okay. Attachment to what is familiar. Even unhealthy patterns feel predictable. And I know that, right? I know what's going to happen if I do this. I know if I get quiet, in the face of an argument, they'll get quiet and we'll talk about it 3 days later, and maybe we'll be mean to each other for 3 to 5 days. But hey, that works. At least I know what to do with that. And again, letting go can feel like you're losing stability. I don't want to transition. So let me go back to doing it the way that I'm accustomed to doing it because that gets me a result that is more familiar. So sometimes we just get mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, relationally attached to things that are familiar. And we just don't want to move. We don't want to address the discomfort. Again, when we're talking about the experience of transition, it's like, well, I don't really want to feel the discomfort that comes with that. And these are some of the underlying things that make it so that we just don't want to face things. Identity disruption. Transitions challenge who you thought you were. You thought you had it all together. You thought you had it all together. And then you joined a team where you were the bottom of the team and it was like, "Oh my goodness, I was a big fish in a small pond." And then I've transitioned and the experience of now being the small fish in a very big pond, that challenges who I thought I was. I thought I was the smartest person in the room, and I'm finding I am the most mediocre because where did you people go to school? And how long have you been doing this type of work? It will challenge how you functioned, how you have functioned. Again, if you are the kind of person that has always been like, que sera, sera. If it happens, it happens. And all of a sudden you're realizing in this transition, oh, I have to be different. It'll challenge some of your habits, some of your patterns, some of the things that, again, made you comfortable. It will make you uncomfortable. You're not just changing your life, you're changing your entire identity. It will challenge unprocessed emotional history. Transitions can activate past losses, past failures, unresolved grief. You're trying to, level up at home. You're trying to even just remodel your house. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you're thinking about all the past emotional things, the times where you tried something and it didn't work. All of a sudden your mother, father, sister, brothers in your ear, like you don't even need all of that. And you're remembering all the times where you tried to excel and someone tried to make you feel shame for wanting more and really shame for wanting more than them. But that's a whole nother happy hour. But unprocessed emotional history. We have things that we've been holding on to. I talk about the big leap often. There's a book called The Big Leap by, I can't remember his last name, but the last name is Gay. I can't remember the first name. But The Big Leap, LEAP. And it talks about four rudimentary reasons why everyone prevents themselves from getting to their like expert level of operating in things. And when you read that book, it's a gut punch because it forces you to look at some of your unprocessed emotional history. That's some of the reason why you will not excel in different areas. An internal conflict. Part of you wants to grow, part of you wants safety. Part of you wants to, wear rubber band bikinis in the summertime. Part of you wants to eat ice cream anytime you want to eat ice cream. Part of you wants to save money and be able to, buy a condo or buy a house. Part of you wants to have front row tickets to the Usher and the Chris Brown concert, right? You want the growth, you want the change, but you also want the very thing that is preventing you from it. So we don't want to have the experience of having to go through it because then I have to face that internal conflict. It creates ambivalence, it creates hesitation, it creates emotional tension. These are all things that if you're going to go through the experience, we don't want to feel these things. Okay, I'm wrestling with the back and forth of the decision-making process. And also fear of the unknown. The future is undefined, so the mind fills the gaps with worry and worst case scenarios. I don't know what's on the other side. Okay. I'm saying that I want something for myself, but the experience of it is difficult. I don't even know what's on the other side. All of this is contributing to my discomfort. All of these things are contributing to the discomfort of the experience. Being concerned, being scared about what is on the other side of the change, of the lifestyle shift, of the restricting things and holding back. All of that contributes to the discomfort within the experience of going through transition. And why do we try to avoid the experience? Why do we try to avoid the experience? Why do we pretend like nothing is wrong? Why do we give each other all of these phrases like, you gonna be all right, you good, you strong, you got it? Why do we give each other all of these phrases? Because emotional avoidance serves as a form of protection. Okay. Why do we try to avoid the experience? Because emotional avoidance serves as a form of protection. Avoidance isn't failure, it's a protective strategy. Your mind's trying to reduce the comfort, it's trying to prevent overwhelm, it's trying to keep you functioning. The brain says, if I think about all of these things, if I feel all of these feelings, I'm going to be flooded. I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to be so uncomfortable. And feelings are not the problem. I don't have the skill set to process all of these big feelings. So the solution is to avoid the big feelings. The solution is to avoid the experience that is coming with this transition because I want to alleviate it. Somewhere along the way, no one taught me what to do when something is really uncomfortable. So my solution is just to avoid it. Early learning. Many people learn some of these phrases. Don't cry. You are overreacting. Oh my God, you're just being dramatic. It's not even that deep. Be strong. You got to be strong for your mama, sister, auntie. If you raise your hand, if you've ever been told when someone passes away, hey, you just got to be strong for your mom, sister, brother, auntie, husband, right? We're told to be strong instead of actually experiencing the emotions that come with the transition. We're also told, girl, just move on. It'll be all right. Just forget about it. Come on, you want to go out? Just move on and don't process the experience of it. So emotions become associated with weakness. Emotions become associated with inconvenience and with disconnection. Okay, so we learn early learning through our primary caregivers, cultures, family of origins, places that we grew up in. Sometimes gender roles will teach us some of these messages that it's not okay for you to have big emotions or have an emotional experience, especially around transition or things that make you uncomfortable. So over time, you learn if I show any emotion around the transitional experience, I'm weak. I can't be weak. And we start to equate vulnerability with weakness. We also learn if I share my emotions with somebody, they don't have the emotional capacity to support me. Therefore, I am an inconvenience. Mom is too tired from work. Dad is too tired from work. I'm little brother, little sister, so my older siblings, they don't want to have anything to do with me. When I bring my feelings up in certain settings, which are probably not the appropriate settings, people tell me, oh my God, you're too much. So I have learned if I talk about the discomfort associated with my experience, I am inconvenient. Ex facto, I have learned that to have emotions that I don't know what to do with, they are a problem if I express them. So then my next move is, well, let me disconnect from said emotions. So when I'm having emotions and I'm having feelings associated with an experience, life has taught me that it is safer and better if I just disconnect from those feelings altogether. Why do we try to avoid the experience? The fear of feeling overwhelmed. A common internal fear is that if I start feeling this, I won't be able to stop. I remember I had a client, that was the first time I heard someone say that. I had a client years ago where she would start crying and then she would stop. And I would remind her, like, hey, I'm a therapist. We are in therapy together. Please feel free. And she would say, I've had so many hurtful things happen to me that I am scared if I start crying, I will never be able to stop. And so people, we suppress our feelings and we distract ourselves. We're quick to feel something uncomfortable come up and we grab our phones and we start to scroll and we jump on our favorite apps and they feed us little dopamine hits and we're like, whew, glad that passed. Or we start to overfunction. We start to fill our calendar with one thing after another. I gotta paint the walls. I gotta, sell some books from my library so I can go to the Chris Brown and Usher concert. We start to overfunction and do all types of things because we don't want to feel the feelings because we are scared we will be flooded. We are scared we will be completely overwhelmed by the emotional experience. And again, it comes if you were never taught how to process your emotions. So then when they come, you think they're big and they're scary, and the solution is to find a way to avoid them. We also have high functioning coping styles. And this is where, depending on your audience, depending on where you are, where you've learned if I overwork, everything will be okay. If I intellectualize it, if I can rationalize it and explain it in big terms and make logic sound really, really good, then everything will be okay. I've learned if I can just stay busy, then I can really distract myself from the experience that I'm having. And if I take care of others, okay. If I abandon myself and I don't slow down enough to see how I'm feeling and what I need, and I just shift all of my focus on others and I overfunction, then these are socially rewarded forms of avoidance. So I don't even realize that it's problematic. But the reality is, I don't really want to feel all the feelings associated with this transition. So I'm doing these other things. Okay. And a lot of times we don't catch these things because these are the ones where people are like, oh my gosh, she's such a good friend. She's such a good mother. She's a martyr. Oh, he's such a good person. He just does everything for everybody. And so we think that it's because it's socially rewarded, we're doing the right thing. When the reality is we are just running, like the saxophones are getting louder. We are running from the feelings that we are having of our own. So I'm using a new mouse and it is sensitive. There we go. I'm like scared to touch it. A lack of emotional modeling. Many people were never taught how to sit with emotion. They're never taught how to process emotion. They're never taught what to do when it comes up. So avoidance becomes the default. Okay. When we have babies, infants, 0 to 1, we expect babies to cry. We expect babies to cry and whimper to get our attention. That is how they get their needs met. That is how they say, I have a wet diaper. I'm hungry. I would like to be held. I want to be close to you. I want to sit up and I want to look out the window, with you, caretaker. They cry. So when a baby cries, we know what to do. We know how to soothe it, like we put it on our shoulder. We might pat the baby. We talk to the baby. We know how to sit with their emotions because we expect them to have that type of response. Well, when people get older, and their response to getting their needs met becomes more sophisticated. Their needs become more sophisticated and more specific. And it requires the primary caretaker to pour into them in ways that the primary caretaker may not have. That is when we lose the ability to teach someone how to process their emotions. Now we have a 4-year-old who's crying, but we have a parent that's tired. So instead of the parent literally physically getting down to the 4-year-old's level and saying, what's happening? Are you hurt on the inside or are you hurt on the outside, right? Did someone hurt your feelings or is your body hurt? Instead of slowing down and talking to your child about what they're feeling and how to process their emotions, we push it away. So if no one taught you how, which it starts with them kind of mirroring you and modeling, like, hey, it's okay to have big feelings. It's okay to be sad. That would make me sad too. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to process it. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we would start to learn it's weak. You are inconvenient. So when it comes up, we feel it, but we're not knowledgeable of what to do. So we just avoid it. And it becomes the default because that works. If I avoid it, everybody's happy. I still have friends. I'm still on the team. I'm still in the class. I'm still socially accepted. And so it starts to sink in. Avoidance is not the problem. It is the strategy or the system that you learn to survive. Avoidance is not the problem. It's just the strategy or the system that you learn to survive. What's the value of feeling? And I ain't even gonna hold you. Okay. This is where I lose a lot of people because people that have been operating from this place, they're like, Dr. Glenna, this works for me. This works. Okay. I got to go to work. I got to take care of kids. I got a job to do. I don't really feel the value of talking about all these big feelings. So, what is the value of processing or acknowledging even the experience? Emotional processing leads to integration. When you feel and when you process your emotions, your nervous system completes the stress cycle, meaning your nervous system goes all the way up. And then your brain is able to say, hey, we're safe. Your parasympathetic nervous system brings you all the way down. It completes the cycle. So you don't live in a heightened state because you're not intended to operate in that place. The nervous system, it completes the cycle and the brain updates the experience and the emotional charge decreases. So the brain is able to say, hey, we can encounter things that we find scary or difficult, and then we can soothe ourselves with this information, with this tactile object. We can soothe ourselves, and then everything will be okay. And then your brain starts to learn that we can experience things that are scary or stressful or just unusual or transitional, and that we will be okay. When you allow yourself to experience and process the feelings associated with transition, it allows your emotions to be able to process. And again, it leads to integration in a way that your brain starts to understand I can do hard things. Even if it is challenging in the very beginning, it's still something that I will be able to succeed at. Feelings provide information. Emotions are signals. Emotions are intended to come when you experience something. They come and they visit you and they inform you of something, right? If you see something and it makes you sad, it might inform you that might be an area that you need to take action in. Your frustration might inform you that, hey, this is an area that you need to set a boundary in. Your sadness might let you know, hey, you've experienced some loss or you're grieving, and that's normal and it's okay. Your anxiety might show you that there is a perceived threat. We don't ever want to lose all of our anxiety because anxiety will warn you when there is an actual threat also. But anxiety is intended to let you know, hey, there might be something going on that you need to have a heightened response to, something happening that you can't just keep cool for. So your feelings are supposed to give you information. If you are of the mindset where you won't acknowledge your feelings, you don't know when all of these things are happening. As wild as it sounds, you won't realize that you are frustrated with the situation and that you need to speak up for yourself and set a boundary. If you want to acknowledge that you're sad or that something more is happening, you want to acknowledge that you've lost something, right? Loss doesn't have to be a person, it can be an opportunity or just a direction that you thought that things were going to go. Another value, it reduces the intensity over time. So in the beginning, it will seem really, really big and really, really hard to deal with. But over time, avoided emotions stay loud. Process emotions will move. Over time, you'll learn, like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. And then you start to process it and you sit with it and you talk about it. And then the intensity of it will decrease over time. And then the experience of it, it just will not be the same for you anymore. It builds emotional tolerance. The more you allow yourself to feel, the less afraid you are of your emotions and the more regulated you become. So, the more that you allow yourself to feel, the more efficient you get at recognizing, oh, I feel abandoned. Am I being abandoned? I'm not being abandoned. But it reminds me of that other time. You know what? I'm okay. I'm safe where I am. Whew, I'm glad I had that talk with myself. You become more proficient at seeing what's happening around you, identifying your emotions, and processing them so that you can self soothe and self regulate. It builds emotional tolerance and it creates self trust because when you allow yourself to feel, you learn that you can handle your internal world. So if you allow yourself to have big feelings around the experience that you're having and how frustrating the experience is, you teach yourself, oh, I can have big feelings. I can be angry. I can be furious, and it doesn't have to run me. I trust myself that I know how to do this. I know what to do. I know how to go to a safe source. And this is not something that I need to run from. This is something that I have the ability to lean into and to properly address. What feeling the experience actually looks like. Um, it's going to look a little different for everybody. Okay. And depending on the nature of the experience, it's also going to be different for everybody. Feeling the experience about transitioning to a new job is going to look different from feeling the experience of transitioning from trying to lose weight, the experience of trying to diet and exercise. Okay. They're both transitions, but the experience of it is going to look a little bit different. What it is not. feeling the experience is not staying stuck. It's not about just staying in one place and just kind of biting your fingernails and, oh my God, I'm here and there's nothing that I can do. That is not what feeling the experience is about. That's not the goal. The goal is also not to just spiral. That is not the goal, to just completely unravel, and become unglued. That is not what feeling the experience is about. And it is not about you isolating. It's not about you saying, I can't talk to anybody. I can't be around anybody. I can't pick up my phone or answer any of my DMs for 3, 4 weeks at a time. That is not feeling your feelings. That is not experiencing what is happening around you. That's not what we're talking about. Those are more avoidant techniques and ways of not actually managing your feelings around the experience. But what it will mean, feeling it will mean you need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to stop long enough to say, what am I feeling? What is happening with me? Not blaming everybody else, not saying this is the problem, you're the problem. No, 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 no. Slow down and say, what am I actually feeling? Well, I'm actually feeling frustration and I'm actually feeling grief because I miss my old life. I miss the way that I used to talk, interact, spend money, eat food. I miss the way that things were. Slow down. And then I want you to name the emotion because the way that we handle irritation is different from the way that we handle abandonment. So you have to slow down and name the emotion specifically. And when you go to name emotions, it's never just one. It's never just I feel angry. No, there's always other things kind of wrapped up in there. So it does mean if you're going to feel the experience and acknowledge it, you got to slow down and you have to actually specifically name what emotion you are feeling. And then you need to experience the emotion. That means allow whatever comes up in your body and in your system without judgment. You need to be able to say, I feel abandoned. And all of the feels, whether you feel it in your stomach, your chest, your hands, your jaw, the muscles in your neck, physically feel it in your body. Feel the memories that come up. Feel all the tension, the scariness that comes up in your body, and do not rush to fix it. Do not jump to, well, it's all right. At least it wasn't this. Don't jump to giving yourself some toxic positivity phrase that alleviates you from the emotional experience. Just feel it and let whatever comes up come up, whether you cry or shake your fist to the heavens or scream, but let it come up because now you are honoring the feelings that you have. You're honoring the experience that you have versus trying to avoid it. This is an exercise that I do with my clients often. Where I literally, we will sit together and I will give you the opportunity to sit with your feelings because it's tempting to just rush through it, especially when we get between the part where we've named the emotion and now we're trying to allow it. That's usually where people try to jump ship. And it's helpful to have a supportive person like a therapist that can see where you are and to help you and help guide you through the experience of experiencing your emotions. Feel the feels on the wheel. This is a list of feeling words. This is a feeling wheel. These you can Google one, you can purchase a copy of one if it really means that much to you. But feeling the feelings on the wheel. We are more than just happy, mad, sad. We are more than that. And we know what these words mean. But there is something about when you see them visually that it is easier to remember the difference between one and the other. Because there is a difference between feeling, I feel bitter versus feeling defensive. And there's a difference between feeling inadequate versus feeling stuck. There's a difference. They're kind of in the same family, but there's a difference in terms of how we feel. And on the other side, there's a difference between feeling playful and feeling triumphant, right? They're both kind of on the joy side of things, but there are different experiences. So I implore you, all of my clients, I would say this all the time. They hate me at first when I first give it to them, but over time they love it. And my favorite part is when I say, how are you feeling? And they say, I don't need the feelings list. And they can just rattle off because they're so accustomed with defining their feelings in a more sophisticated way that they don't even need to look at the list anymore. But I encourage you to just download a copy of this, keep it in your phone, and throughout the day, look at the feelings words and not just when you're upset. Even when you're feeling good, right? When you're feeling secure, when you're feeling at peace, recognize, what does that feel like in my body? When I feel relieved, what does that feel like in my body? How do I perceive other people when I feel safe? Maybe I'm not so enraged, or I'm not so frustrated because now I feel safe. Recognize what that feels like in your body and learn to readily identify it. Because if we're going to experience the feeling, and manage the experience of transition, we also want to know when we feel good so that we can emulate that feeling whenever we need to. Practical tools, because I'm all about it. Practical tools. Slow down your response. Okay, slow down your response. What do we do when we're on the right direction, but it just doesn't feel good? The journey, being in the hallway, it doesn't feel good. What are some things that we can do to manage that experience? Slow down your response. Not every feeling needs an immediate action. Not every feeling that you have, not every unction that you have, you don't need to take action on both sides. You don't need to attend every argument that you're invited to, and you don't need to invite everyone into every single feeling that you're having. Recognize that part of a transitional period, it will be different. It will be difficult. There will be times where it feels overwhelming, but slow down before you feel the need to react to every single thing that you have going on inside of you. Number two, when you are trying to process your feelings, when you are trying to manage the experience of transition, name the emotion. I just gave you the list of feelings words. Make sure that you download one, keep it on your phone. Be able to say, I feel frustrated. I feel uncertain. Naming it reduces the intensity. Naming the feelings, even if that's where it stops, naming the feelings, it demystifies things. All of a sudden, where you had all of these big feelings swarming up inside of you and it just felt like they were going to take over, when you're able to explicitly name them, it removes their power. Okay. It reduces the overall intensity. Number three, allow dual experiences. Two things can coexist. You can feel grateful and feel overwhelmed. One does not cancel out the other. You can feel excited and scared. So excited that my kid got accepted into NYU and I live in California, but I'm scared that my baby is out of my reach. Two things can coexist, and one does not cancel out the other. So it is okay when you realize that you're having that dual experience. Like the Bible says, Lord, I have belief, but help my unbelief. You are allowed to have two different experiences at the same time. Normalize discomfort. Experiencing discomfort does not mean that you made the wrong decision. Experiencing discomfort, it does not mean that you made the wrong decision. So normalize discomfort in the transition. There are times where, again, you know that you're going along the right path. You know that you've made the right decision. You know that going back to school was the right decision for you. Your boss has already confirmed that on graduation day, your pay is going to go up. So normalize discomfort in the experience. It is not that we are supposed to be comfortable 24 hours a day, 365. And it does not mean that you've made the wrong decision and that you're going down the wrong path. Create small anchors. When we are working through the experience of transition, we want to create small anchors. These small anchors can include things like new habits, daily routines that we are adapting to, and creating daily structure. This could be, you start your morning with prayer and Bible study, connecting with your partner, and doing a quick exercise, and then you start your morning. Or it could be at the end of your day, you read for 30 minutes and you read a little book to your children, and you guys all pray as a family. There's intentional things that you do to design your day that keeps you anchored, because when we're in transition, it's difficult to feel stable. When it feels like all of our balls are kind of thrown in the air, sometimes I describe it as I feel like I'm in the middle of a tornado and there's a cow next to me. We're both just floating around, without any control over what's happening. But when you create small anchors in your world, when you say, okay, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to get on my treadmill and I'm going to listen to my empowering podcast for 20 minutes. That's going to be a part of my day. These things create stability in the face of change. They make it so that while the world around you, while you're in the eye of the tornado with the cow looking at you just as confused, it gives you a source of stability. It's not about control, but these anchors give you a way to feel stable and to feel anchored while you are in a transitional period. Limit over processing alone. When you are going through a period in life where you know you've made the right decision and you are trying to manage the experience of said decision, limit over processing alone. I need you to identify a safe source of support. Source can be sources. I don't know what you have access to, but you got to identify somebody. Who can you talk to without feeling judged or rushed? I need you to have like a handful of, in case of emergencies, break glass. And these are the people that you can call. These are the people that you can call crying. You can call them confused. You can call overwhelmed. You can say, hey, you got a minute? Because I am going through it in this moment. Processing the experience is not just internal, it is relational. It was not intended that you clam up and that you do everything on your own. So find a safe source and limit your over processing alone. Make sure that it is somebody that is grounded and it's stable. Maybe it's somebody that's two steps ahead of you, right? They've done the very thing that you're trying to do. And they're like, nope, you can do it. Come on, just follow my voice and just keep moving forward. But make sure that you don't do too much alone and by yourself. Journal without editing. Oftentimes, when we think about journaling, we think, Dear Diary, this is what happened today. And then this happened this afternoon. See you tomorrow. And we think that it has to be very pretty and it has to be very like structured and you have to use punctuation. And that's not what we're asking for. Let the thoughts come without judgment. Let it, I don't even need a semblance of order. Let your thoughts come out undefined. Just let them just come out onto the page. The goal is to dump everything that's going on in your head onto that paper. Let it out. You can write in full sentences. You can just scribble words like angry on a page, whatever works for you. But journal without editing as a way to help you process the difficulty of this transition. Ground your body. Grounding your physical body in the face of emotional turmoil is very powerful. Breathing exercises, walking, stretching, touch grass, hug trees, but literally ground your body. Find ways for you to feel physically grounded. Breathing exercises are some of my favorite. I tell people all the time, I like breathing exercises because you're going to breathe anyway. So you may as well breathe in a way that helps you to feel calm and relaxed. And you can breathe anywhere. You can breathe in a staff meeting. You can breathe when you're standing in line to buy your toilet paper. These are things that you can do anywhere. You don't have to wait for your special session or your special moment, but just do some deep breathing. Breathe into your diaphragm, into your belly. Walking, that bilateral movement helps send the signal to the body that you are safe and that you are calm. Stretching your muscles also helps. Stretch your back, stretch your shoulders, unclench your jaw, but ground your body. Challenge perfectionism. If you are of the mindset where you thought that you were just going to go from glory to glory, every single transition was going to be smooth and easy, you thought that your temperament was going to be enough for you to just grin and bear it, and you were just going to come out on the other side like nothing even happened, and that all of your ducks would be in a row the entire time. You have to understand there is no perfect transition. Movement forward is all we need. There will be imperfection. You will say the wrong thing. You will do the wrong thing. You will eat too much, not eat enough. You will mismanage your money. These things will happen. There is no perfect transition. So when you know that you're doing the right thing, release the idea that just because you're doing the right thing and you're going in the right direction, everything will be perfect along the way. There is no perfect transition. And I want you to practice balanced processing. So even whether you're journaling, whether you are talking to a loved one, whether you have a safe source for support, I want you to practice balanced processing, meaning we are processing, not ruminating. Okay. I know that you're going through some things. I know that you're in transition, but ruminating is just going around and around and around with no real exit, no real plan. Versus processing is like, wow, like I'm realizing this is how I'm feeling. I see how this is impacting how I'm feeling, how my choices are impacting things. And there's progress, there's movement forward. That is balance processing. I want you to practice feeling your emotions, talking to other people about your emotions when needed, but not allowing flooding. Yes, we want to sit with our feelings. Yes, we want to experience our feelings, but we don't want to entertain our feelings to the point where they flood us and now we are completely immobilized. That's not what we're looking for. And we're not trying to flood other people. So we want to talk to other people. We don't want to dump on other people. So you should be able to talk and talk about your experience, but there is a difference between talking about the experience and this is difficult versus just dumping on them. And the only way that you're managing your feelings is to call somebody and just dump, dump, dump. So we want balanced processing as we are going through these things. Okay. That is what I have for today. I did finish a smidgen early for anybody that's keeping track at that level. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer them. You can throw them in the chat. For those of you that are watching the replay, thank you very much for joining the happy hour, and I will see you next week.